Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Harrison, the founder of Sponsorship X, and we have a very special Sponsorship X podcast here today from Cannes, France. This kind of came together organically, and we're going to talk about the evolution of Cannes and its movement towards sports marketing sponsorship. But enough about me. I'm excited to have my guest here today, Jay.
I'm Jay Prasad, the CEO of Relometrics. This question that's come up a lot is how many Cannes have you been to? And I'm pretty sure this is my 11th now.
You run out of fingers.
Yeah. So I've seen a lot of twists and turns of how this festival has evolved.
I love that. So it's not over yet, but do you have a preliminary ranking for us? And that kind of, is it? I could say something dumb like it's in the top 10. That's probably easy. But is it in the top 3? Where's it ranked? This one? Where's 2025 sitting?
For me, it's definitely ranking pretty high.
Good.
I think, as you were saying, sports has really taken over a lot of mind share here, where sports really wasn't like a front and center. This was just a lot about advertising and the creativity of advertising for many years. And you can always tell by what's going on the beach, right? And you see things come and go, right? There was a point in time where it was the agencies that were the main players on the beach.
Right.
Probably about 8-9 years ago, you started to have sort of the tech takeover, right? Google Beach, Meta Beach, and those were like the really big and fancy installations. But now there's Pinterest is there too, right?
Yeah.
So things are always changing.
Did you get a tattoo, by the way? Because Pinterest was
I heard
doing
that.
free permanent tattoos. You didn't get one?
Did not get
Okay,
one.
all right. That just ruined my follow-up question.
That's okay.
Which was are you going to show it
Are you
for
gonna
it?
show
Yeah.
it
Darn.
on camera?
Anyway, keep going. But yeah, Pinterest activation's amazing.
Yeah, and like you just see new things are happening, right? Like Discord is here, Reddit has a house, and so like this stuff 10 years ago wasn't here. So consumer brands in the digital space continue to, proliferate, and that becomes something that becomes a part of the beach. I have not gone into the Palais, so I haven't seen any of the awards and stuff. I used to do that.
Yep.
Passes are just really expensive now.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty hard if you're not going to spend most of your day there to sort of say, I want to do that. But sports has definitely become, one of the centerpieces of marketing strategy. I think there's so much excitement about big global tentpole events. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of reasons, macro reasons, why I think sports is just continuing to rise in importance, and we can definitely talk about that. But there's a lot of athletes on panels here, right? There's a lot of content in and around sport, and I think it's just going to continue to grow because there's a nice Venn diagram of where Relo exists in terms of sports and computer vision AI, and now moving into other forms of agentic video AI. So you've got all of these things that are pretty hot right now coming together. So that's, I think, for me, why this is probably ranking as maybe number 1 or 2.
I
I'd say
love
the
that.
first one was just awestruck. So I was like, oh my God.
This is my first one, so I'm
happy
kind
to
of
be
awestruck.
here.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And you mentioned athletes, and I think what's interesting is a lot of athletes that are here are referring to themselves now as entrepreneurs. I'd love to know a little bit about you as an entrepreneur and a business leader. Just kind of ground set us for, your background, where you came from. Take us from being, Ernst & Young to here. So give us the cool notes.
Yeah, I started off in consulting, and it's like a great boot camp when you come out of college, right?
Right.
It humbles you, and you really learn a lot about how business
How many
works.
hour weeks were you working? Like take me back, like the 24-year-old Jay.
Definitely some long hours on some projects that had pretty big deadlines. I've definitely slept in conference rooms before,
Right.
Working 15, 16-hour days, in compressed time frames, Monday through Thursday, catching a Thursday night flight, doing it all over again the next week. But I was really enamored at that time with the growth of the sort of internet, like call it Web 1.0, if you will. So I'm old enough to have lived through that as an adult.
Back in the day when every brand put www.com on their advertising, right? Like, we have a website.
Yeah. My brand is instantly worth more because
Right.
it's .com.
Yeah.
But so I actually started my first company at 24.
Amazing.
And it was early.
What was the itch you
software
were trying to
space.
scratch? Like, most entrepreneurs, there's a pain point. What was that itch you were trying to solve?
I think just seeing what was in essence like a new industrial revolution happening, which is happening now again with AI, but even bigger scale and bigger impact. And there was this old video series called Nerds 2.0, and it was about the founding of the old search engine Excite, right? Those were the Portal days,
Yep.
right?
Excite with
Portal
an
Wars were
exclamation
kind of
mark.
won by Yahoo, and I ended
Yeah.
up spending 3 years working at Yahoo. But it was just about how these guys, typical garage, big dreams, and they were just going to go for it. And I think for me, thinking about doing that versus the consulting grind was like that was my motivation. Is I want to build something.
Yeah.
And so me and a couple of friends that were also consultants, we all kind of decided we watched that together
Yeah.
too. And we were like,
Yeah.
let's do it.
I love it.
Let's quit and let's start it. And so from there, my journey has just been continuing to evolve, and a lot of it has really been on this intersection of media and technology, because I think those are two of my biggest passions. So whether it's sports or music, movies, TV, right? I mean, content does sort of make the world go round in a lot of
Right.
ways. And so most of my career has been spent trying to create new opportunities in that space and to try to solve problems in that space.
I love it. And so what took you to Rello?
So the last, I would say, about 12 years of my career has really been focused on measurement. Going back 11 years ago here today, we're at Video Amp's beautiful penthouse here.
Right. And you used to work for them.
Yeah, I was on like the garage days, like original
Right,
team,
okay.
going back to I think 2015.
Wow.
I helped organize the Video Amp's first couple cans.
Okay.
So that was
Got it. Yeah.
in my 11
So
count.
this is really full circle.
Yeah, this is full circle. And we set out then to really think about how there's going to be this shift, between digital video, which at that point, it's like YouTube, but then a lot of other digital video content is becoming like an extension of TV. And then there was also this birth of streaming and fast channels. And so you had all of this convergence happening. And even when I was at Yahoo, and Yahoo Sports, was really early in bringing content to digital video.
Yeah.
Right? It had the first deal with MLB back in the day where there was some MLB content available. And so I've just seen that if you're going to create these new experiences for fans and consumers, that you're going to ultimately need to have proper advertising insertion. You're going to need proper measurement. You're going to need at some point to be able to work across multiple properties and multiple video players. So been working on that for a long time. And then being this opportunity with Rello presented itself to lead it and really try to bring sponsorship in this form of branded content and branded integration marketing into the same fold as digital advertising, because digital advertising changed the world, right?
Right.
I mean, the most lucrative business in the history of the world is Google's search business.
Yeah.
Right. Meta touches 2 billion people a day. They are just creating infinite scale of ad inventory, world-class targeting, and Google can tell you exactly how it performed, right? Who bought something, who clicked, and where they send you, and did you buy something? And sports is going to be now aligned in that area. And then as we talk about this partnership here with Video Amp, that's a part of the reason why I think there's just so much inertia, because now you can create scale and accountability into this form of marketing,
Which I love.
and have it live alongside advertising.
If you're like most sponsored marketers, ROI probably keeps you up at night. That's why the Sponsorship X ROI Forum in Vancouver was such a big success. And now you can access 17 sessions from that conference on demand for just $299 Canadian. Go to the Sponsorship X Forum website and go to ROI Forum on demand. And there you'll find masterclasses, workshops, keynotes that will inform you about everything from ROI versus RO, valuation versus evaluation, fan sentiment as a metric, so you can sharpen your saw and up your game when it comes to ROI. These valuable resources not only include the presentation on stage, but also an opportunity for you to focus right in on the deck if you don't want to actually watch the on-stage presentation. So roll up your sleeves, time to learn, time to take advantage of this opportunity to apply these key lessons to how your organization tackles ROI in sponsorship marketing.
So just before we get to this announcement, which I know is a big highlight of this year's, your 11th Can, I want to talk about where you start off, where Can now has this real dominance with sport and sponsorship, and you think about it globally, right? With F1 coming to America and NBA or NFL and NBA going global, right? Who knows, having a team off the continent in the NFL's case or the African League. But it seems like we're in this thing, and I hope I'm not sounding biased as a lover of sponsorship, but whereas, in some cases it was on somebody's desk because somebody liked to golf. In other cases, it was sort of the community thing. There are a lot of brands that do sponsorship well, but it feels like more and more companies are making it really central to their marketing. Like it's not, 10 years ago, people would say, well, we have to do advertising. But now I've heard brands, MasterCard yesterday said that they took 70% of their advertising budget and put into sponsorships and experiences. So why do you think that is? And then I want to talk a little bit about this big announcement. Actually, a lot about this big announcement made. But first, start me off here. Why do you think sponsorship has become central to brands' marketing strategies?
Well, I think brands and smart marketers, definitely follow consumer trends.
Yep.
Right. And there is more sport being consumed than ever before. There's also more people playing professionally, right?
Right.
The explosion of women's sports was definitely a real hot topic last year. Mm-hmm. And, that trend just continues to grow. But you also just have new and emerging sports, right? Mm-hmm. There was no such thing as professional pickleball.
Right. And there's 3 leagues, right?
Yeah, there's 3 leagues. And Padel is, coming from Europe into the U.S. I learned about a new version of a soccer format called Kings League.
Yep.
Right, which is like huge in Europe. It's in 8 countries now. So you just have all of these new sports happening. And some of these are just existing on Twitch or YouTube in terms of their consumption. It's influencer driven, like in the Kings League's case. So if this is where people are spending their time, and the youth of this world is not usually sitting in front of the big screen, right? It might be more decorative or something that happens. It's like always going to be a 2-screen experience. And so if people are consuming sports content on social media, which is one of the most consumed types of content, then it kind of fits your marketing goal to say, I'm going to create some tentpole centerpieces around my marketing strategy.
Right.
Whether it's MasterCard and all the different sports, and Formula One is big for them. Mm-hmm. You then build your creative strategy around that. Like World Cup next year, Olympics, you always see the advertising creative is related to where they're aligning their brand.
Yeah, because they're tapping into that energy point.
Versus like always just creating another version of a similar messaging. Right? About, whether it's your credit card, whether it's about insurance. So insurance is another great example, right? It's insurance by nature isn't like super exciting to talk about. So what they've done is align themselves to sports and then create funny and memorable
create
ads.
Create mayhem.
Yeah. That then align to sports, right? And so that's really just going to continue to grow, and therefore, that form of marketing needs to have scaled and accurate measurement and the capability to optimize, so that you can keep meeting this growing demand.
So let's talk about your big announcement this week and all the millions of things you've been doing. You've launched something amazing with VideoAmp in terms of total sport performance. Tell us what that is, why it's important to brands. But first of all, just maybe give us the grounding of how bringing your measurement metrics available together with their kind of ongoing scanning, understanding what's happening, and why that's beneficial for a sports marketer.
Yeah, so our form of data creation, we use computer vision, right, to do these second-by-second detections, and I'm sure we've probably shown you the video.
Yeah.
And that's how we understand what's on screen, how often, what was the quality of those exposures, and we also track that across the digital web and all social media, for earned and owned social media. So that form of data exists sort of in its own island, right? Where VideoAmp is rooted in automated content recognition, ACR technology, which is basically the data about what's being watched on a TV or through a cable set-top box.
Yep.
And so bringing those two data sets together, right, you can look at that as like sort of foundational, is an important aspect of things, because a lot of sponsorship measurement was not being used against audience data. So it was based on, the exposure during this game for 8 minutes is the equivalent of this many 30-second spots in this game. And I think, that had to be there because there wasn't scaled viewership data. It was just one legacy provider with a panel that is kind of a black box. So we believe in big data. VideoAmp is rooted in big data.
Yep.
So the idea was, can we connect the dots? And if we connect the dots, you're bringing sponsorship and branded content integration to that same scale with advertising. So then if you want to look at your total reach, let's say, okay, well, between my ads and my sponsorship of the pregame show, the postgame show, and the whistle-to-whistle coverage, what was the total reach in terms of like minute by minute, 15-minute increment looking at that? Because you don't change the channel during the game very often, but you might change the channel during the ads.
Right.
And then you also have to think about the way the world is going. So linear TV is still the biggest driver of viewership for sports and therefore generating the most value for sponsors. But you have more and more people watching on a streaming channel, right?
Right,
So
absolutely.
the same game on CBS or NBC is also on Peacock and Paramount Plus. You know, and in the case of things like the Champions League, which is you know, in the U.S. through Paramount and CBS, Paramount Plus, because it's on during the day, is probably going to be where most people are watching it on a second device, iPad, phone, computer.
That's what they're doing
maybe at work,
that's what they're doing in
right?
my office. Like, you know, the guys in the bullpen have a big screen and they're all watching.
So that fragmentation means that you have to start becoming a cross-screen measurement provider.
Right.
And VideoAmp is a currency, right? It is a fast-growing currency. I'll let them kind of speak more directly to what happens out of the upfronts and how much scale. But, you know, I think it's going to be a big jump in terms of people saying, I want to use a currency rooted in big data, and I want it to be cross-screen. So now with total sports performance and, you know, the subcomponent, we can tell you the total reach between the ads and the sponsorships. We can also tell you the unique reach of the sponsorships, because they're, again, if you change the channel, you're probably going to get a higher reach during the game than the ad spots alone. But also the audience composition, right? So VideoAmp is also able to tell you age demographics and other insights about who's watching and who's watching on linear versus who's watching on streaming. All of that now can be brought into the sports marketing and sports sponsorship world.
I love it.
That the last piece of this, which is I think even maybe even more important, is VideoAmp's data is rooted to a household identifier, right? So that's called valid for VideoAmp, and this is basically using aggregated viewing data. So it's not like saying your house, this is what you're watching. It's done in aggregates, but all those households are on an ID.
Right.
So this is now moving into the other hot topic of the last couple of years, which is this idea of data collaboration and data clean rooms. The whole point of data clean rooms is that then multiple companies that have valuable data can now work and collaborate on that data without having to share or send that data.
Right.
You know, it's like that old game of Battleship.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
B-14.
Yeah,
I can't see
yeah,
what you're doing,
yeah,
but if
yeah.
you have it, you tell me.
Yeah,
right?
right.
So now you can sort of query multiple data sources
Right.
in these environments that have applications on top of them. So what does that mean? That means a big brand. That means a big league like the NBA or any of these leagues, because they have their own first-party data now, right? Because they have streaming
Tickets
apps,
and merchandise
tickets,
and
merch,
streaming,
right?
yeah.
So they have millions of fans that are in their database.
Yeah.
You could also have the streaming provider, right? You know, whether it's ESPN Plus and all of its new apps, and so now you have all of this scale coming from the media company, and then you have brands. So I want to know if people are buying insurance because of my sponsorship into the NBA. And then you have Rello's data, you have VideoAmp's data. So now these clean rooms are going to be able to allow all these new measurement use cases and custom analytics to take place. One of which will be outcomes. That's why outcomes was one of the key things we focused on
Right.
in our press and our marketing here, is that are sponsorships actually driving business results? Are you selling more product? Are you convincing and making a higher impact on consumers? We also partnered jointly with a company called Captify,
Yep.
which is a search intelligence platform. So now, is the sponsorship exposure directly leading to better and more intricate search for your product and
So
your brand?
I saw your brand in the event. Am I actually doing something literally in real time, right? Like searching or
Yeah, and so if you spend the money to, you know, sponsor a sport league and maybe
Yeah.
your competitor's not,
Yeah.
are you getting search lead
Yeah.
on your competitors
Right.
because of this? That can now also be measured at the household level in the U.S. Now, there's going to have to be different strategies for other parts of the world.
Yeah.
You know, we're here in France, which is a
different
part of
approaches
Europe
to
and the
privacy.
European Union
Yeah.
with GDPR.
Yeah.
So that use case isn't here yet, but there are going to be ways in which you can solve for that. So you're actually bringing full funnel measurement to sports marketing. My exposures, my upper level brand survey work that we do with our partners, Sponsor Pulse, search intelligence, and then aggregate lift from, like, let's say, foot traffic, app installs, right? These are other things that are just basically now able to become attribution signals that are in this ecosystem. And then at the end of the funnel would be first party data to actually measure actual sales.
Amazing.
So this is now all possible because of this partnership and others. So, we've been working on this for about a year and a half.
Congrats.
And bringing other companies into the fold,
Yeah.
right? So you're going to hear about, we both work with Snowflake quite aggressively, and Snowflake is a huge supporter of this movement, and they have a sports and media cloud, and we're all a part of it. So we're putting this all together.
So I read the press release, and sometimes I get tripped up by a word I've never seen before. So I'm going to ask you this word to explain it for our audience. Deduplicated. Tell my mom what it means.
So deduplication means that if you have 4 people, watching in a house.
Yep. They better all be cheering for the Steelers.
Yes,
Okay,
right.
just
So-
for the record. Yeah.
You want to look at unique reach and deduplicated reach,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So, meaning, like, if you are going to split the devices in a household because you don't want to count the viewership twice if 2 TVs were tuned in,
Right.
It's still one household.
Got it.
So you can do that, and then you have incrementality is another interesting word, right? So by sponsoring something and doing the pregame show and having that available on streaming, and then that also gets picked up and goes viral on YouTube, you're getting a bunch of incremental audience reach that way, right? So your sponsorship lives, and that's why the social media part of what we do is so important.
Right. Because it lives on.
It lives on, and people share clips, and then you have influencers talking over clips. And if your brand is in that, you're getting all this incremental value.
Right.
So how do you measure that, right? And so you have to sort of put all these pieces together.
No, I absolutely love that.
The Sponsorship X podcast will be right back. This episode is brought to you in part by the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival. Spanning 6 cities, putting on 25 shows to over 200,000 attendees across North America, the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival has featured the likes of Martin Short, Whitney Cummings, and John Mulvaney on their stages. But the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival is more than just a festival. Since its inception, it has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for community initiatives, mental health, and other important charities. So if you want to enjoy a cabaret-style comedy festival under the skies, if you want to enjoy the opportunity to see local talent with big names on the same stage, the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival is for you. For tickets and shows information, go to greatoutdoorscomedyfestival.com for big laughs, massive impact, and a great time.
So I'm a brand. What explain to me as you've now rolling this tool out, it sounds like you're continuing to add partners. Take me forward, let's just say a year. How do I leverage this? And I guess maybe my question in really simple terms is, should I be looking at this and what you're doing as on what I would call like the valuation side, so up front before I think of what I'm doing? Or is this more on the evaluation side where it's kind of once we've implemented, it's about optimizing and figure out how to, figure out how do I take people along the customer journey? Or is it both?
Yeah, it is both.
Okay.
I think the ability to do strategic planning up front. So, we have a product called Census, which right now has 9 of the major leagues in it, and we're adding.
And that's a relatively new one for you, right?
We launched it in 2023.
Okay. So
Right, and so we've continued to add
Yeah.
sports leagues to it. The most recent one was Formula One. We've also
Congrats.
added
That's what I saw.
the NWSL,
Amazing.
and the WNBA, college football, and then your big 5 core North American leagues. But we will be adding English Premier League and UEFA to it. So we're going to keep growing that. We're also growing in Japan. So Census allows you to benchmark and see what's happening. Meaning, like, if I'm an airline and I'm going to be launching some new routes, maybe in the Northeast or the Southwest, what are the potential ways I could sponsor? And what are other airlines doing? And what's their share of voice by market, by sport? Who's the audience that's watching that? So that is a strategic planning capability. VideoAmp actually also has a cross-screen planning platform that allows buyers to look at how do you plan your advertising into streaming, into digital video, into linear TV against an audience, right? Meaning, I'm not just going to say I need to reach adults,
Right.
25 to 54.
Yeah.
In a fragmentation world, that doesn't work anymore. So you have to be able to find the best way to create these kinds of planning solutions to drive these plans for the year. This is how people prepare for the upfronts. So we both have planning solutions that will help brands as well as the rights holders think about how they want to go to market. So if you're a rights holder and you think you're under indexing, in airlines, stick to that, yet you see that you have a high overlap with flyers of Delta Airlines that also go to your games and watch your games on TV.
Right.
You might then be able to say, I'm going to create a compelling pitch, to Delta. So buyers and sellers can use this for planning and benchmarking.
And I think what's interesting with that for me with a rights holder then is they can then look at whatever bundle they're selling to an airline and be able to value it based on the audience as opposed to like the assets, right? Like that bundle they're selling to an airline is going to be very different than that same bundle sold to, I'm making this up, a local, healthcare provider or a packaged goods company.
Right, and that's where the creativity of these integrated sponsorship campaigns, right? I think at a sports specific conference, right, everyone talks about it's beyond the logo slap now.
Yeah.
Right?
Can we actually ask people to stop saying that?
Yeah,
Because I sort of feel like beyond the logo slap, like
it kind of diminishes, but it's still so important,
yeah,
right?
I feel like
that's the
I
definition
feel
of
like I'm
branding.
getting slapped. Like my entire career just took one to the
I
face.
agree with you.
Yeah.
But you have, if a certain brand is like also integrated into these virtual assets that you see happening, right? Like the virtual home plate rotational in Major League Baseball has been a huge success in terms of driving value. And you can do creative things there.
DEDs in hockey. Like
Yeah,
completely
DEDs in hockey. It's
transform
the whole viewing
arena.
experience. Yeah. I mean, and if you're in the arena, you're not seeing that.
Right.
You're just only seeing that when you're watching. And the DED execution just continues to get more creative. So that's going to have more value, right? And so you're going to want to be able to account for that and optimize to that. You also now have all these alternative broadcasts, right? On Amazon, having the AWS powered stream that's got all this data happening on the field. Genius Sports, some friends of ours, they're doing all of these additional enhancements.
The Manning cast.
And those things are now also a part of minute-by-minute sports betting. Let's not forget about that trend. Right? So the data on performance from athletes is impacting in real time how you can bet. And some of that stuff might be brought to you in part with Gatorade, right? And so now how is that value driving it? So it's just really interesting how the consumption process is just evolving. Betting is creating more engagement. Betting is driving multi-screen experiences. You have to measure all that. And you want to measure it with big data, with an audience metrics behind it, unified, and have a transparent methodology that buyers and sellers alike both can understand and trust.
And so back to your point about the clean data and basically adding, right? So now a rights holder doesn't have to worry about their privacy with their season ticket holders with a brand. You're adding on top, right?
Yeah, both sides have valuable first-party consumer data.
Yeah.
Everyone is kind of a direct-to-consumer player now, right? Streaming companies now are direct-to-consumer versus a linear TV channel that had to go through cable. Cable had the relationship with the consumer, not the broadcaster.
Right.
Now they all have it. Sports teams and leagues, and every team, if you talk to a team in any league, one of their top strategies is more direct fan engagement, more first-party data.
Right.
So as everyone is building up this valuable asset base of first-party data, how do you collaborate on it safely and in a way that unlocks value for all parts? And that's what's great about this, right? When ecosystems work together, liquidity rises.
Right.
Liquidity rises, that means there's more investments in sports, more upgrades to stadiums, better fan experiences. And the more money that is coming into sport in general means that new sports get funded. Women's sports start to scale.
More private equity, more investors, which probably is also somewhat pushing this entire marketing move, which is when you see those big organizations coming in, writing big checks, and brand marketers see the value going up.
Also, when big, sophisticated institutional investors like private equity and big growth funds come in, you're now looking at something that's an asset class, right?
Right.
Private equity goes into real estate. It's an asset class.
Not an expense.
Yeah, there's all kinds of very refined ways in which to operationally increase efficiency in these markets. And so if sports is an asset class and one of the big drivers of revenue is marketing from sponsorships and partnerships, that has to now be at the same level of scale that other asset classes use in their operations. And that's also good for what this announcement is bringing to the market.
No, it's so funny you say that because I did a keynote recently where I, asked people to think about, some people think the brand person is a sponsor, some says they're a partner. My whole thesis was they're an investor. And to your point, when you look at something as an asset class, like how do you grow that, right? And how do you benefit from those dividends?
Can't grow it if you can't measure it.
Right. Yeah. So that's why you're here. So one last question for you before I let you go. I know it's obviously been a long week. You mentioned sports betting. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but in the world of measuring, what do you see as emerging categories, right? I mean, sports betting obviously, as it's become legalized in multiple states. I live in Canada. It's getting legalized in different provinces. But what's next? What's the next sports betting on the horizon?
Yeah, sports betting obviously is super endemic, so
Yeah.
you're going to have them integrate in multiple ways, right?
Yeah.
From a data perspective, and they're going to partner, with ESPN Bet,
Right.
and then they're going to bring brands into that. So
Yeah.
it's definitely like a multi-party kind of experience. I think you're seeing the fintech brands just remain a lot in sport, right?
Yeah.
You saw Chime go public this last week. They're
Amazing.
super involved in sport and expanding, and you could say that Robinhood, they're all like in this. And another emerging category is going to be pure play AI companies.
Right.
My friends at Perplexity
Yeah.
just did a Lewis Hamilton deal.
Right.
And so I think now other consumer AI brands are going to come into this. I mean, we saw the crypto wave kind of come
Yeah.
but FTX's crash didn't hurt everyone else.
Right.
Crypto.com or crypto they're everywhere. They're
Yeah.
in Formula One. They have the arena in LA where
Right.
the Lakers
Right.
play.
Yeah.
So you see that as just an enduring thing too, is that fintech combined with sort of crypto and digital assets is another big growing category. So it's a lot of new tech brands, but at the same time, you have new beverages that get hot all the time.
Right. Why didn't you and I invent Poppy? Like, come on, right?
Poppy,
Yeah.
or
yeah.
Celsius.
Yeah, right.
I mean, 5 cans ago, no one knew Celsius,
Right.
but Celsius
Liquid
is
Death.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're all integrated into sports as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, thanks for this conversation. I also have to note that it was took to the last question before you brought up AI, which has to be a record again, because I feel like every other conversation I've started has been AI at the beginning. Congratulations on the big announcement, and we're looking forward to seeing more.
Thank you very much.